Okay, welcome to another episode of my podcast. This is the End Times Writer. It's me, Ernesto. I'm going to do another part on Trump's arrest and some aftermath. It's been about just over a month and a half since Trump was arrested. Remember, Alvin Bragg was the New York County District Attorney that filed the charges and indictment from grand jury. Was opened on the court that long ago. And what I'm going to tell you what you're not really hearing a lot of, and it needs to be said. Now, remember the indictment was sealed, so nobody really knew what was in it. There's a lot of speculation about what it was. There was a leak here or there. But when they finally opened it, okay, what they're just to recap, they were charging Trump with 34 felony counts. And however, that's what was said. The actual indictment, when it was opened, there's not one single felony specifically mentioned. Okay, now remember that. There's not one single felony count that's really mentioned. What you have are 34 instances of accounting information, counting the basically over and over and over the same accounting items that they listed that are actually, if they were uh, violations, because they haven't even proven those are violations, but if those are violations, they would only be misdemeanors. And to recap what I said last time, the last time I spoke on this, 2 months ago almost, remember in New York State, misdemeanors are only good for 2 years. They expire in 2 years. Statute of limitations, misdemeanors are 2 years. Now, these things they're charging Trump with are well over 2 years. They're like 6.5, closer to 7 years. So by themselves, they're not even really valid. They're expired points of the law that they couldn't really sue Trump on. So what Alan Bragg is trying to do is say, because you can only make these allowable in a court case in New York if you tie these misdemeanors, these 34 counts of accounting issues, to an existing felony. Thereby, he tries to make them all felonies now. Okay, so really, this guy's stretching it. Because here's the thing: no, remember, no specific felony is mentioned. Uh, per when I say that, I mean no specific part of the law in New York City that Trump violated is really being cited. It's not. So what they're saying in general, what they're saying is that Bragg wants people to believe that money involved in a payoff to Stormy Daniels and anything else related to that was interference in a federal campaign. That's Trump running for president. Now, here's the big problem why this probably will end bad for Alan Bragg. Remember, it's not just a campaign, it's a federal campaign. Now, the problem with that is Alan Bragg is, like I said earlier, listen carefully, he's the district attorney for New York County in the state of New York. A county. This guy, I'm not even sure he's working for the state. I thought he was. It looks like he's working for, if not the state of New York, the county, New York County. And here's what all the legal experts are saying. And if you think about it, how can a county or state prosecute somebody for a so-called federal issue, federal campaign? They don't have jurisdiction over federal cases. So Bragg has overreached his jurisdiction by him admitting several times that this is interference in a federal campaign. Well, he has no jurisdiction. He's trying to take the place of a federal court that would be the venue to prosecute federal case. So this should be thrown out just on that basis alone. But reporters asked them, one reporter asked them on the day that the indictment was unsealed and Trump was arrested, on that day, he gave a brief talking to the press, and someone asked him, "Well, what exactly are you charging the President Trump with?" And here's what he said. I heard him myself on the news bit. He said, "I don't have to say that right now." That's what he said. I don't have to say that. So in other words, we don't know exactly what law. Yeah, he said it's a campaign interference, but folks, that's what he's generalizing it. But where is the actual law quoted from New York State that's been violated, or New York County that's been violated? What section of the law was violated? None that we know of, none. So he's still trying to make this up, folks. And until this goes to jury, if it goes that far, then we'll see what exact law is he going to cite. So for all the news media out there, the usual, call it the state media, CNN, NBC, ABC, and all the others, no one is telling you that there's no specific actual felony mentioned in this indictment. And then they're not telling you their so-called law commentators they have on. They hardly anybody's telling you that this guy is trying to prosecute a federal case. And remember, the feds already, the Department of Justice, already looked into Trump and these issues, and they decided not to prosecute because they didn't think they had a case there. But somehow Bragg thinks he does. Bragg is just doing this for political advancement, you know. Oh, everybody in the left wing wants to get Trump because they hate him. They want to stop him from being president. That is the big major thing. They want to stop him from being president because he interferes with the status quo corruption between the media and what's going on with politicians and outside people, outside the country, people in the deep state, people, however you want to call it. The people sent him to reform Washington, drain the swamp, remember? That's why everybody's coming up with all kinds of stuff, trying to stop him. And despite his rough edges on his personality to a lot of people, he hasn't really done anything legal wrong. Remember, the IRS has been investigating him or doing audits on him for like 7 years in a row. They don't find anything wrong with him. They wanted to see his tax returns because they were hoping they had nothing specific. They were just fishing again, hoping to find something wrong. Nothing. The 2 impeachments, they made up lies, fake witnesses, nothing. Now this here is a big nothing burger, but from a Christian point of view, let me tell you something. God is watching over the affairs of men. He watches our lives. He watches all this stuff. God allows people to be in offices. Whether doesn't mean that they're all his will for what they want to be done in office. There's certain things he wants done, And that's why you could scratch your head. Why was Obama allowed to be president? This guy was so corrupt. Um, now Biden has surpassed surpassed Obama in corruption. Yeah, if you haven't seen and heard everything going on, it's basically a family cartel of crime, payoffs, and they have the House Congress investigations and whistleblowers. They have the goods on Biden, the Biden crime family. People are calling it because they have the bank. They have bank statements of money being paid off to people that winds up being paid off to Biden and family members, in-laws, and direct. Besides just his son Hunter. So all this is corrupt. So here's the thing I think of though when I think of this situation. Let me give you an extreme example in the Bible. Okay, if you remember Esther in the book of Esther in the Bible, Old Testament, um, she just to quickly skip ahead, she became the new queen for the king of was it Babylon, I believe, at the time, and she became the new queen. She was very beautiful. She was raised by her relative, or I believe Uncle Mordecai, um, and Haman was an official from the king, and because when he walked around and he was so important, but in his own eyes he was more important than he was. He's a very proud guy, and when Mordecai, when he'd see him in public somewhere, all the people would bow down or to Haman except Mordecai. Mordecai never bowed to him. And boy, this really the guy couldn't like sleep. He was just filled with anger, and he devised the plot to try to kill Mordecai because he knew Mordecai was Jewish. He didn't know, and it was kept hidden from the public that Esther was Jewish also, and she'd been told by her uncle, "Don't let anybody know who your people are," because he knew that something like this could happen, because there's a lot of people that always hated Jewish people, and it's always been part of their like curse almost. So finally, Mordecai convinces the king that he tricks the king sort of and says there's a person, you should declare on this day that all the Jews in the kingdom could be people can rise up and take their vengeance on him or kill him. And he built a gallows, really big gallows near the palace of the king, because he wanted to see Haman hang there. And so the twist in this is that Mordecai talks with Esther and tells him what's at stake. Says you're going to be killed. Basically says to her, "You won't escape this either, because you'll be killed too, because she's Jewish too." So that's where that famous verse is. She was born for such a time as this, a time to intervene. She had access to the king as a queen, and she went unannounced, taking a chance in those days that if the king didn't have favor on you and you came in to see him unannounced, he could put you to death. So she goes and tells her maidens to fast with her, goes and sees the king, and basically what happens is king has favor. He had favor on her. He listens to her, and eventually, it's revealed that the plot is revealed, and it backfires on Mordecai, and he winds up being hung on his own gallows instead of Mordecai. And that's how it ends. It goes back. Now, that's an extreme case, but what I'm telling you, this can backfire. This reminds me of this Trump situation here. They've arrested him, and now it looks like everybody's going, oh, wow, yeah, well, it's about time they got him. Well, they haven't really got him. Remember, nothing has been proven against him. He's only been accused. He's hadn't had his day in court yet. And so this could backfire because I think in August is a chance that Trump's legal team can apply to have this case removed so it doesn't even go to court. So this case could get dropped before the actual court date around August or right after August, maybe June, or toward the end of the year. So what I see could happen because of the overreach into a a federal incident, a federal campaign, right there could be dropped. And then there's no specific felony mentioned. And then the expiration of all these misdemeanors, even if they were to be true. So this could be dropped. And then any reasonable judge really should drop this because they'll see like this is. And I've seen multiple commentators who are left wing, right wing, from both sides, saying this is really bad for Bragg to have done this because he's making it up, throwing stuff on the wall, hoping it sticks, hoping a judge will agree. Well, whether it gets dismissed right away, Trump will appeal. If he has to go to the Supreme Court, all the way, appeal it. I think this will eventually just be dropped. And then the reversal can happen where now Trump, okay, I'm saying it here because I haven't heard anybody say it, Trump may then be able to sue New York County, Allen Bragg, whatever, he'd be able to sue them for false arrest because they had no reason to arrest him legally. They didn't really prove their case, you know. So the jury, was these grand juries are one sided. You just get somebody, you're pretty much just telling them this guy's done something bad. Well, you should allow a court case to go against them, and it's not a really regular court where they go back and forth trying to exonerate Trump or the person that's being charged. It's more one way, and they say, okay, we think there's enough evidence, and then they'll announce their verdict. So this is really a one way thing, and it's really remember we're talking in Manhattan area of New York, and most people are like 90% of them vote Democrat. So these people are hostile to Trump. A lot of them. In other parts of New York, they like Trump. So, anyways, that's what's probably going to happen here. I think it's in the long by the time this is all over, whenever that happens, whether it's this year or even part of next year, but whenever it happens, case could get most likely dropped, and that reversal, Trump will now sue, and he can win millions. That will help him in his reelection. Could turn out for the good. That's the main part. Now, the small side thing now, let's go to that Jean Carroll case. This is the woman who filed that case that Trump raped her in a New York department store called Bergdorf Goodman. Now, this, like Trump himself said about her, she's a whack job, and she is, folks. If you look up her history on the online and find out things she says and the name she uses for her pet, her pet cat calls the cat vagina, and some other words. That's the cat's name, vagina, whatever else the other two words are. She's has a poodle. She paints his hair blue on top of his head, and she's had sort of like a talk show thing, and she has a lot of weird things she said. But now check. I want you to get this main thing. That case also in New York. Remember, a lot of New York, a lot of left wingers in New York. This case was filed in New York against Trump. Here's the thing. The lady, I don't know if you've heard this. This lady, Jean Carroll, does not even remember when supposedly she was at this department store when Trump supposedly went in there with her and raped her. She doesn't even know when it happened. So here's the main thing. It was never proved when she was there. it was never proved if Trump was ever there when she was there. So right there, the case should have never. This judge is corrupt. This judge should never have allowed this case to go forward, because you don't even have a certain date established when supposedly this happened, when she supposedly was there, when Trump was supposedly there. Those date and time are missing. Trump, being a big businessman, I'm sure he keeps records of his appointments and where he was. If we had a date and a time when he was supposedly there, he could easily probably have gone back and found records and other people that were with him if he was there, where he was during that time. But that was not allowed for him to have that option by saying, "Oh, I don't remember." Folks, it's all suspicious because this New York had a statute of limitations on these kinds of crimes, women who were like raped and then waiting decades later, like in this case, they didn't. They said that's too much time has gone by, because if you let too much time, people forget things and stuff. Look, she's saying she doesn't even remember when. I think she did. She's lying. I think she. It's not so much she doesn't remember; it never happened. And now I'll tell you why. Trump's attorney. You aren't hearing this, but it's actually posted on the internet. One of Trump's attorneys um, mentioned where this lady probably got her idea to accuse Trump from. And what it is, folks, is there was in 2012, okay, in the year 2012, there's an episode of the TV series Law and Order, but there were spin-offs. This was Law and Order Special Victims Unit. Law and Order Special Victims Unit from 2012. In this episode, okay, this is straight up. I've seen the clip of this myself, and it shows the video where it's being recounted in the TV show that this lady is in New York. She's in Bergdorf Goldman department store, and she's in the dressing room, and she had said she got raped in the dressing room. Folks, coincidence? No. This is the attorney's probably right. That's where she probably got the idea that she got raped in the dressing room at that department store, because that's exactly a takeoff from this police TV series, Law and Order. That's what is on there, and you can look for it. You might find it. Yeah, I'm not making that up. Like I told you, I saw it. It's a black and white. When they play the video clip. It's a short clip, less than probably 20 seconds, but there it is. So this is where she's getting this from, and besides that, folks, Trump has already filed an appeal for that case. Okay, and that case should be thrown out. Remember, the jury said no, Trump did. The jury's dumb too. Jury did not believe her that Trump raped her, but they believed that he did sexually assault her, but he didn't rape her. Really, if she's lying, if they don't believe her on the main charge, why would they believe her on a lesser charge? It's all political, folks. It doesn't make sense. It's not consistent. They never proved they were both there at the same time. They should not have. The jury's wrong. The judge is corrupt for allowing that to even be brought up. But here's the thing. This woman, there's a lot of things on her. They actually have a clip where she also, she asked her, were there viewers, or she was on the radio. She asked women, what would they think of having sex with Trump? Yeah, and years ago she asked, how would they like to have sex with Trump? Really? And yet here she supposedly had sex with Trump by rape. Why would she keep talking about that later on in those kind of ways, like, hey, do you think that'd be something like sexy or something? This woman is just it's a big confliction there because there's a lot of lies going on there. So that's probably going to get overturned. It should eventually when it's appealed because, like I said, come on, there's no uh, real witnesses there. She claims she told a friend or two that she got raped later on, but folks, what she claims can't be believed because she don't even know where she was there. It doesn't add up. She's copying some TV show exactly for the scenario, and then the judge is corrupt because I read some of the actual um, statements during the court transcript. Some guy, as an attorney, posted this, and I read the actual wording. Do you know that one of Trump's attorney was asking this lady, Jean Carroll, during the court session? He's asking her, "Did you ever go to the store and ask them if they checked their security camera footage and see did they ever tell you that they could see Trump on the footage?" And you know what the judge said about that to the attorney? He told the attorney, "You need to move on. You need to." He didn't want the attorney to be asking that. Really? Something so important? Move on. And the judge did so many similar things that was catering to this woman, Jean Carroll, that the Trump attorneys actually filed a motion in the court for the judge to excuse himself because he was so biased, blatantly biased. Do you know that when if you've ever been in a court for jury selection, I have. I've been a jury foreman twice, uh, and so I've gone at least three times in the jury pool. They will they'll have both sides, attorneys for the plaintiff, attorneys for the defendant, and they get to ask these people. There could be 20, 30 people there, let's say, that they're going to pick 12 jurors and a couple alternates, and they'll ask each side gets to ask questions. For example, let's say they pick me and they go, Mr. Serrano, do you think you could be fair in a hearing? Do you have any biases that would keep you from being fair? They'll ask you questions like that, whatever else they want to ask you. And what do you think about someone who's accused if there's no eyewitnesses or whatever? They'll ask him questions, right? Well, guess what? This judge did not allow Trump's attorneys. Okay, get this. He didn't allow them to question any of the potential jurors ahead of time, like a standard practice. This is a violation of just basic norms in the law. He didn't allow them to ever talk to the jury. So that's like pretty much plan a jury there with the judge's blessing. It's all corrupt, folks. You haven't heard that, have you? Yeah, this former prosecuting attorney who's covering all this legal stuff and points and gets the transcript and puts it up online and circles and shows you the things I'm telling you is doing this. So all this is gonna probably it's gonna wind up being that all this are nothing burgers, and hopefully maybe Trump will countersue in that case too. But remember, you're innocent to proven guilty. That's the law, federal law. In it, and Trump has not been convicted of, well, he was arrested, but he has not been convicted of a single thing yet. Remember that. He's not been convicted yet because there's been no trial, and it's not been ended. You know, let's say the trial gets it may be dropped, or it may, let's say they find him guilty somehow still, which is to me is incredible that it would happen, but you can't be surprised with all the stuff happening, and it's New York. But eventually, after appeal, if he has to do that, this stuff should all go away. It should all be dropped because it's all corruption. And remember that, folks, is that people by now, if they were objected, they'd see that all these things are just constant lies, constant things made up, trying to make it stick. And that's all they have. Meanwhile, Biden now has been, looks like he's going to face impeachment finally. It's going to be filed. Marjorie Greene in the House just came out 2 days ago, said They're going to file impeachment charges on Biden for the border, specifically for the border right now, and all issues related to the border, trafficking of people, trafficking of drugs, right? Letting all these legals in, letting people are dying in the care of the border patrol. Uh, Kids are being drowned trying to cross the river. Millions, unprecedented millions, have come in under Biden. He's purposely keeping this, allowing this to happen. It's only the states stepping up, like Texas, call the National Guard, boat patrols, helicopters to enforce their border, put up barriers and wire so people can't come in, can't cross the river there. If it weren't for that, they'd be flooding in here. But they Biden is not acting in our interests. He's not enforcing federal law. He swore to uphold the Constitution. He's not. On those charges alone, he can be impeached. There's votes in the House. There'll be about two votes short in the Senate, but you never know. A couple of these Democrats in the Senate may actually take their oath serious above their party affiliation and go with this impeachment because they see fentanyl's coming in, and number one killer of people from like teens to like under 40 years old, fentanyl, overdosing. People are mixing that dangerous drug with other drugs, with pot, with just other stuff, and it's like 1,000 times stronger than like, was it cocaine or one of these things they use for pain killing in the hospitals. It's 1,000 times stronger, and they're lacing it with stuff. People are dying because they're not necessarily taking it on purpose. They think they're taking one drug, they're getting this cocktail mix. They're dying from it. Remember, that's the guy. What's his name? They killed that one guy OD'd on it. I can't remember his name right now. Remember they got the cop putting the knee on his neck, and they convicted him of, was it manslaughter, or they're gonna try him on that. But the coroner said he said, I couldn't breathe. I can't. Well, he said he couldn't breathe before the cops even touched him because he was ODing on fentanyl. The dangerous thing on fentanyl is it stops your heart, makes it hard to breathe. And that guy OD'd on fentanyl. I can't remember his name. You'll remember him. Anyway, I'll let you go now. I went way over. It's about half an hour. So this is update. Remember all these points. And we'll see next time. I'll probably get you to a biblical issue more instead of the more political. But I have to hit political because the way our nation goes, folks, affects how our lives are going to be lived. And we're fighting back, though, because we have some good people in the House now that control the House. Pelosi's gone. And they can't do as much as they used to, like sicking the FBI and all these other people on private citizens, like a gulag. That's going to end eventually. This is the beginning of the end, folks. So we'll talk to you later. Bye.